was the last time you had your eyes examined?
Oh, about a year and a half ago.
Can't recall.
Never.
Well...
Zurcher is off this week to take a look at one of the Toledo area's newest attractions and to visit with some prehistoric creatures, as well as visit a restaurant where chicken soup makes hamburgers happen. Here's Neil in a one-tank trip.
My son Craig and I set off this week to discover a brand new attraction in the Toledo Metro Parks. It's called the Nature Discovery Center at the Secor Reservation. Inside you'll find a lot of hands-on activities for both adults and children.
And some things are, concepts are kind of dry, so we have to make them peppy and refreshing. And so if you want to learn about layers of a forest, there's a treehouse theater for children. There's computer programs that relate to eco-shopping so that you become a wise eco-consumer with green light specials. There's a butterfly and hummingbird garden. You have an underground room where people can feel roots, smell roots, learn about what it's like to be a woodchuck, transform yourself into a woodchuck.
The best part about this program, besides the fact that kids and adults can interact with both live and imaginary creatures, is that the entire program is free. Speaking of animals, if you missed the appearance of the robotic dinosaurs when they were here in Cleveland, you have until September to see them at the Science Museum at the Toledo Zoo. The great creatures are realistically presented amidst plants and sounds that you might have seen or heard when they roamed the earth. By the way, any time of year is a good time to visit the Toledo Zoo. There is always something new like the dinosaurs to see, and their compactness means that all the live exhibits are very close together, so that walking is kept to a minimum, something to consider when taking small children to the zoo. And it's a tradition when entering the Toledo Zoo to have your picture taken on these stone buffalo. This is not buffalo, but hamburger cooked in a wholly different way. Many folks suggested that we try the Ghoulish Villa in Oregon, just east of Toledo, for one of their special hamburgers cooked in chicken soup. It's a Hungarian recipe, they tell us, and this 3/4 of a pound ghoul burger is a meal in itself. Toledo, Ohio, an easy drive from Cleveland, and best of all, just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
I wanted to see Neil take a bite out of that.
He didn't bring anything back.
No, he didn't.
That's a clue.
That is all of our news at 6. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
We invite you to join us again tonight at 11. Have a good evening.
Zurcher as he sets out this week on a one-tank trip down the Cuyahoga Valley to Akron.
With school about to start, my son Craig and I decided to spend our last trip together this summer on a carriage ride and tour of the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area. The folks here at Carriage Trade Tours give not only a tour, but also fill in a lot of interesting details along the way.
This house over here was the inn at Brandywine. It's a bed and breakfast at the moment.
The last stop is here at Brandywine Falls, a little-known attraction in the park, where we can spread a blanket on a meadow above the falls and open a picnic basket prepared by Carriage Trade and sit back and enjoy a gourmet dinner and, in our case, a bottle of chilled grape juice to toast our summer. It's a great way to spend an afternoon with someone special, and the cost is about $80, and that includes the food. As for Brandywine Falls, until recently, it was one of the best-kept secrets in the valley.
The previous owners of this property kept it a closely guarded secret because they were afraid of liability that somebody might fall over. Presently, the National Park Service owns the falls, and they've just completed a $900,000 project building observation decking, and it now has become the focal point of the park.
Although you can't reach it by horse-drawn carriage, just down the road is Akron, and another focal point of the area, Stan Hewitt, the mansion that was once home to the Cyberling family, and is now a major tourist attraction. Stan Hewitt is marking its 75th anniversary. From its grand entrance to the massive great room, the home is a well-preserved reminder of another era. Outside, the long walk under an arch of birch trees leads to one of the several formal gardens that dot the estate. Gardens where something is always in bloom. It was the old kiddie train from Idora Park in Youngstown that caught Craig's eye and brought us to Quaker Square here in downtown Akron. From its unique Hilton Hotel with round bedrooms built in old grain silos to its mix of stores and shops, it is still a fun place to stop and spend some time. Here you'll also find a Hall of Fame, tucked away in a corridor, a tribute to broadcasters. One of the Hall of Fame inductees last year was our own Dick Goddard. The Cuyahoga Valley and City of Akron, much to see and do, and best of all, just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
Now, how do I get in that Hall of Fame? I worked in Akron for a while.
Well, yeah, but you weren't sincere.
Okay, that's our news at 6, the CBS Evening News with Dan Rapp.
Teak Mall and a visit to an auction barn are just some of the highlights this week as our traveling man Neil Zurcher heads out to Ashland on a one-tank trip.
There's been a rebirth in Ashland, Ohio. This used to be the headquarters of the town's biggest employer, the pump company. But when the pump company left town, the building was left vacant. Today, it's Pump House Square, providing a mall for dozens of antique dealers who attract their clientele from all over the Midwest.
We do shy away from being a flea market or having very late just collectibles. We want to keep quality. I think that's our key word, is quality, and want to keep it that way.
Although only open a few months, Pump House Square has already attracted antique dealers from as far away as Pennsylvania who have brought their operation here to be part of this unique mall. Pump House Square is open Monday through Saturday. Just up the street at the Ashland Historical Society, you can see one of the largest privately owned insect collections in the country, the life work of Thomas Thornburg, grandfather of its present keeper, Robert Thornburg.
Well, it's 285 trays, and we estimate that there's 25,000 specimens in the collection.
From butterflies to bargains, it's hard to beat the prices or the quality of the food here at the Reed House restaurant in nearby Nova. They offer fresh daily specials for dinner and lunch for under $4, as well as some wonderful fresh-baked pies that their kitchen turns out each day. You find a lot of the local folks eating here.
Soda, $22.50, number 9, I think.
And on a Wednesday night on the outskirts of Ashland, folks head for the Olivesburg General Store and Auction Barn. That's auction night. Admission is free. Just bring along your money and be prepared to buy.
Soda, $40, 62, and a good buy.
They sell just about everything from burlap bags to oil lamps to a box of women's hats to fresh baked bread. You never know what you'll find going on the block here at the auction house. Ashland County, lots of things to see and do, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that is all of our news at 6. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
And stay tuned for the CBS Evening News. That's next.
It's harvest time and roadside stands are awakening, bursting with a bumper crop this year. This is Lorain County, where the rural area is still sprinkled with producing farms like Groves near Elyria. Apples, corn, tomatoes, peaches, they're all here, but something new has been added. Because of insurance costs, many farmers are no longer letting you go into their fields and orchards to pick your own.
We would rather have our pickers pick the fruit, and we place the bins out at our market, and people can pick and select.
Annette says it's still pick your own, but you just don't have to climb any ladders. If all that fresh produce makes you hungry, let me tell you about a restaurant. Grassie's Wayside Inn on Oberlin Road has been satisfying appetites for over 40 years with some unique dishes like this prairie chicken sandwich. It's broiled chicken breast with bacon and cabbage with a horseradish sauce.
And it's served also with a haystack of thinly sliced onions, not the rings, but the shredded onions.
The onions have a different taste. They've been dipped in Parmesan cheese. For something a bit different, try Grassie's. I think you'll like it. One of the best-kept secrets in most counties is their metropolitan park system, and Lorain County is no exception. From its beautiful Carlisle Reservation that contains the Forest Hills Golf Center, to the Bacon Woods Reservation near Vermilion, where the annual Pioneer Days Festival is held each autumn, attracting thousands to experience, taste, and touch the recent and the far past, to see how far we have come. The newest attraction in the park system is the French Creek Nature Center in Sheffield. This beautiful building will be used for many purposes in coming years. Already it offers nature exhibits and space to hold several programs at once on the natural history of the park, the French Creek Reservation.
Gary, how many acres in the French Creek Reservation?
428.
428 acres, and it's mostly what we're seeing right here?
It's really unique. It's 428 acres of forest.
With paved all-people trails as well as wilderness trails, the French Creek Reservation is just one more example of why Lorain County is a great destination, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news at 6.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. We'll see you back here at 11. Have a good evening. Or just daydreaming as Neil likes to do. He says that while Niagara Falls may be bigger and better known, we have waterfalls right here in northern Ohio that are every bit as pretty.
This week, this time between the seasons, we thought we'd take you to some of my favorite places. Places around northern Ohio that you may not know are there. Places that are beautiful any time of the year, although the changing of the seasons certainly enhances them. This is Payne Falls near Paynesville, just one of the many waterfalls that we have, just an easy drive from Cleveland. Payne Falls is part of the wonderful Lake County Metro Park system. Named for the founder of Paynesville, the waterfall is about 40 feet high, with two 20-foot drops stretching nearly 100 feet across the Payne Creek. The best vantage point to view the falls is from a hillside about 200 feet across the stream. Payne Falls is located on Payne Road in Leroy Township, just outside of Paynesville. Perhaps one of the most photographed waterfalls in northern Ohio is this one, Chagrin Falls, located right in downtown Chagrin Falls. The river is 100 foot wide as it flows under the street and then drops 50 feet into the misty glen below. The city has built this stairway to the bottom of the falls to give visitors a close-up look at the cataract the town was named for. This waterfall near Northfield was only made accessible to the general public in the last year. Brandywine Falls for many years was one of the best-kept secrets in the Cuyahoga Valley. The previous owners, fearing lawsuits, wouldn't let the public near the edge of the falls. Now the falls is owned by the National Park Service, who have just installed a $500,000 observation deck and walkway so visitors can safely get a good view of the nearly 80-foot waterfall into the valley. Little-known waterfalls still exist here in northern Ohio. This one is in Ashtabula County, near the intersection of State Route 84 and Hatcher's Corners Road in Monroe Township. Even though it is hard to view because it's on private property, it drops a total of 4 times more than 80 feet as it makes a horseshoe turn into the valley, carved out by Conneaut Creek. Some beauty spots to add enjoyment to the changing seasons here in northern Ohio. And best of all of them are just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
Now, wait a minute. That's a first in 10 years. I've never seen a report without food in it somewhere. I can't believe it. That's our news at 6.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you at 11. Have a good evening. Just a couple of the stops this week as our traveling man Neil Zurcher sets out on a one-tank trip to Massillon, Ohio.
Massillon, Ohio is the hometown of the Massillon Tigers, our own Mark Kuntz, and Echo Cookware. And here at the Echo Company, each Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 2, the doors are open to the public who can buy some of the seconds produced by the Cookware Company.
Our prices on our seconds range from 80 cents to $1.10, and in the stores they're generally marked $2 to $4.
Besides baking pans of every description, they also carry a variety of other discounted merchandise that they also sell here. They take no credit cards, but will take personal checks and cash. Another organization that calls Massillon home is the Museum of the Ohio Society of Military History. This is a different kind of museum. They do have their displays relative to well-known Ohio military persons like Sharon Lane, the only Army nurse killed in action in the Vietnam War, and their display of Medal of Honor recipients is one of the largest in the nation. But the real charm of this museum is that each display has a story behind it, whether the owner may have been a cook or a chaplain.
We're trying to show the personal aspect of the veterans themselves, not of the wars, but of the veterans themselves.
The museum is open Tuesday through Saturday and is free, but donations are accepted. Just down the road on Lincoln Way is Freeg's Restaurant. At least 5 generations of Massillon folks have been coming here for their turtle soup that has been on the Freeg menu for over 110 years.
Years ago, they caught them in a Tuscarawas River, dressed them out back here. My granddad and my dad would dress them out.
Today, Freeg gets his turtles from a fish house in Akron, all ready for the soup pot. They've also managed to keep other old favorites, meatloaf, short ribs, real pot pie, on the menu at prices that are still very low. But if you want to be part of a Massillon tradition and eat at Freeg's, you'll have to do it very soon. Urban renewal may take over the building within the next 3 months. Gene Freeg says when it does, he's retiring and bringing to an end his family's 110-year-old restaurant operation. Food, bargains, and a great museum, just some of the things to see and do in Massillon, Ohio, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
You know, that makes me think, when I was a little girl, I had a turtle, and it disappeared.
Oh, that's been a long time,
I don't suppose. Well, that is all of our news at 6. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
And stay tuned for the CBS Evening News. That's next. Hope you'll join us for Newscenter.
Spectacular. He'll also be dropping in at places that offer some bona fide bargains. Tonight in his first report, Neil heads southeast for bargains on furniture and a place with just about everything.
With gasoline prices rising faster than Aunt Nellie's blood pressure, a one-tank trip to Ohio's Amish country may be just the thing this autumn. This is a place where a trip into town uses horsepower, no gasoline. Quiet countrysides here will soon turn orange, brown, and yellow. Gravel roads that will soon be carpeted with leaves of purple and red, muffling the sounds of the horses' hooves. Fields of summer sliding silently into an autumn rainbow of color. And here, nestled amongst the cornfields, we can begin our hunt for bargains, such as in Dalton, Ohio at the Country Outlet.
Some of the stuff we buy is brand new, but it's a closeout, and then some things are seconds.
Ray Peterman deals with furniture from about 50 factories that supply some of the major department stores in the country. He says buying their leftovers and even some repairable damaged goods means he can sell for considerably less.
The price, I would say, is approximately 50 to 60% off.
An example, when I visited the outlet, Peterman was selling these new solid oak curved glass curio cabinets for $189. The same ones still being sold by a department store for $300. Another way to save some gasoline is to carry one of these things along with you. You benefit 2 ways. You can get closer to what you're looking at, and it also gives you some exercise. You'll get plenty of that when you go bargain hunting at a flea market, like this one in Hartville, Ohio, open every Monday and Thursday. It attracts hundreds of vendors who offer just about any product you can imagine, including new merchandise. What'd you buy?
Bought a brand new Ohio State sweatshirt.
Cheaper than you'd find it in the stores?
I think so, yeah. Good quality.
Why do you like flea markets?
Because you get your price, that's why. You always deal on clothes or anything you want, antiques, new things, old things, you know.
People will dicker.
Right.
And that's very important. Most of the vendors expect you to dicker with them over the price. Are you offended when people come up and say, hey, would you take less for that?
No, I'm not offended at all.
That's part of the whole thing.
Part of the game.
When you come to a flea market, you might want to bring a bike with you because it's an easy way to see everything and save a lot of walking. By the way, I bought this folding bicycle at a flea market for less than $50. So whether it's hammer handles or face cream, bugles or baskets, chances are you'll find a bargain at the flea market. In our next report, we'll show you a place where all those things you send back to the catalog end up at bargain prices. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News with Dan Rathers next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you back here tonight. The way places to watch autumn arrive. Tonight, Neil heads for western Pennsylvania.
They come by bus, and they arrive by cars. Thousands daily cramming into this factory outlet store in the tiny town of Warren, Pennsylvania. This is the Blair Company, the giant mail-order clothing firm's way of getting rid of clothes and other items that did not sell in their direct mail marketing. And the prices are a bargain.
We have ladies' dresses that may retail for $24.95. We're selling them for $4.95. We have ladies' blouses that sell for $11.95 to maybe $3.95. Men's slacks that sell for $25 are selling for $6.95 or even $3.95.
And some prices are even better than that. We found men's shoes for as low as 50 cents and women's dresses for just 99 cents. Now granted, many of these items are made of cheap polyester, but if you're looking for some inexpensive clothing, who cares? And best of all, new things are always arriving.
We have new merchandise coming in constantly. We get anywhere from 2 to 3 shipments a week.
By the way, when you get to the cash register, there's another savings. Since the store is located in Pennsylvania, they charge no sales tax on clothing. But don't come here just for the bargains. Take time to enjoy the scenery. The Allegheny River flows through the downtown, offering a tranquil place to rest and watch the onset of autumn. A few minutes outside of the town and you find gentle waterfalls that trickle down mountainsides of this valley that forms the basin of the Allegheny Reservoir and the giant Kinzoo Dam. The dam can be seen from many viewpoints, but one of the best is to take your bike and ride down to this observation deck a half-mile away. There you'll find the view captured on many postcards. The whole area is surrounded by woods, and as the leaves begin to change, the view from on top of the mountains, like here at Jake's Rocks, will be even more impressive. The Allegheny National Forest in Warren, Pennsylvania, a great place to travel for bargains and for autumn. In our next report, we'll head south for a look at a bargain place for flowers and a way to keep warm this winter. And best of all, it's only a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News with Dan Rathers next.
Thank you for sharing your places to see autumn colors. Here's Neil in a special one-tank trip.
They're already thinking about Christmas and holidays next year here at the headquarters of the Frontier Fruit and Nut Company in Norton, Ohio. In their outlet store in the front of the building, you can find some good bargains left over from last year, or special prices on broken nuts and candies.
We get in a lot of samples from suppliers that we like to test here. We get in over shipments, so we're overstocked. We'll mark things down. For instance, we have an order of pistachios here that we just are not able to sell at the stores, so they're on sale for $3.99 a pound.
Just how much can you save by shopping this outlet store? Generally 30 to 50%, say employees, and they'll even fill mail orders on their closeouts here at the headquarters. Let's take a little autumn drive east to Columbiana County, where just outside of Salem, I want to show you one of the loveliest small parks in Ohio. Bring along a bicycle and find Tea Garden Road and Eagleton's Glen Park, with its covered bridge that still bears the advertisements of a century ago. Here on this quiet country road, the only sound is the rush of water hurrying from one side to the other of this tiny watch pocket park. An ancient tree stands guard on the road to the bridge. Autumn reigns here in splendid privacy, disturbed only by the small noises of my bicycle. And in this solitude, surrounded by the beauty of nature and man, the words of Samuel Hageman seem appropriate. He wrote, "Earth is but the frozen echo of the silent voice of God." I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8, on a one-tank trip.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News, which will be joining in progress, is next.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. We invite you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening. Outside and watch the changing seasons. Well, this week, Neil takes us to a town that is the gateway to Ohio's Amish land. Here's a one-tank trip.
This is the autumn farmland around the small village of Navarre, one of the gateways to Ohio's Amish land. Here, quiet country roads are still mostly undisturbed by tourists, a perfect place for an autumn bike ride. Yet nearby, you can still enjoy the many crafts and food of the Amish and Swiss who call this area home, like the Amstutz family restaurant here on the outskirts of Navarre, where, unlike a lot of restaurants who throw a frozen ready-made pie into an oven and then call it home-baked, the Amstutz family for over 30 years has been making their pies the old-fashioned homemade way.
Take and prepare the dough for the crust, and they are baked in the ovens, and so are all the cream fillings that they're prepared, and so are the fruit fillings. Everything's done on the stoves or in our ovens.
The pies are so good that they sell over 200 a day. The Amstutz family restaurant is open 7 days a week. On the square in Navarre, you'll find a place that has some bargain prices on handmade Amish furniture, prices like these.
Got a lamp table for $75, cocktail table, solid oak for $19.99.
Now that's not veneer, this is solid oak.
It's all solid oak, right.
Navarre Furniture also offers unfinished Amish-made furniture at an additional saving. They also are open 7 days a week. You might be surprised to learn that the world's largest maker of Swiss cheese is not in Switzerland, but right here in nearby Brewster, Ohio, at the Brewster Dairy.
Even in Switzerland, there's no factories that are as large as Brewster's at all, and we've been told that we made more Swiss cheese than anybody in the whole world last year.
And price-wise, their factory outlet store is well worth a stop if you're looking for bargains.
Our cheeses in our dairy case are about half the price what you'll see in a city grocery store or deli.
And finally, to satisfy the sweet tooth, stop in Canal Fulton at deliciously different candies, dipped by hand the old-fashioned way. Becky Knapp and her family have come up with some unique candies, like Canal Mud, or giant chocolate turtles, where you can soothe your guilt by saying, "I just ate one of them." Candy, autumn leaves, and other good things that make this a great weekend getaway, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And we're happy to say the entire Amstutz family is here in our studio, and they brought us pies. How do you like that?
Which we're going to devour very shortly. Boy, does it look good, doesn't it?
Sure does.
That's our news at 6 p.m. Magazine is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us, and we hope to see you back here tonight after the game. Have a good evening. To some great destinations in Indianapolis.
From its state capital to the Hoosier Dome, Indianapolis, Indiana has much to boast about. From its landmark Soldiers and Sailors Monument in the center of town, to its resurrected Union Station built over a century ago, today it is a marketplace, but there are ghosts of the past all over the place.
I'll be seeing you in all the old...
Sandra Borns is the wife of Bob Borns, who was the developer of Union Station, and she couldn't help but walk through here and think of all the emotions and, you know, all the feelings that went through this place as you were saying goodbye to your kids, you were saying, you know, goodbye to people going to war.
the park across the way.
So she created these fiberglass ghost figures and placed them all over the old station as a reminder of the emotions once felt in this old train station. Today, the beautifully restored building still contains some train cars, but they are parked here permanently, part of a Holiday Inn complex where the cars have become sleeping rooms. Well, here we are on board, and as you can see, it doesn't look like a Pullman car of the old days. This is the Amelia Earhart room. Each of these rooms were named for some famous person that once traveled on the train. The old railroad station has become a festive marketplace with dozens of little shops that offer everything from miniature trains to Hollywood and racing souvenirs to a shop just for left-handed people. This is a left-handed corkscrew. It works, I guess most corkscrews would work right to left. This one works left to right to get the cork out of the bottle. They also offer such things as left-handed clocks that run the other way, and even t-shirts to tell the world that you're left-handed. A few blocks from downtown is one of the real treasures of Indianapolis, their world-famous Children's Museum, which has been copied in cities around the world, with 5 floors.
And our traveling man Neil Zurcher says it's also a good time for a good old-fashioned hayride, a walk through a forest haunted by flying ghosts, and a visit with Mr. Blue Jeans. So let's do it. Here's Neil on a one-tank trip to Trumbull County.
This is the kind of scene you might expect in an autumn hayride. Spanking blue skies, golden sun shining through corn flags flying at full staff in a mellow fall breeze, pumpkins and scarecrows. But this is not some rural farm. This is within the city limits of the city of Warren, Ohio. This is Blue Jeans Farm, a few acres of a former dump along the river, reclaimed and turned into a mini farm by Jerry Miskolis.
A lot of the city kids, they've never gotten a chance to get near the farm or get near any place, that's even remotely like a farm. We're located in the city, and it's close and convenient for the schools and for parents to bring their kids down and see the horses and go for a ride. It's sort of like leaving the city for about 20 minutes.
In the autumn, Mr. Blue Jeans turns his acres into a haunted forest, complete with flying ghosts in the cornfield, a dragon that is bigger than a hay wagon, who lets out a smoke-filled roar when youngsters get too close. And of course, all these attractions take on an even scarier appearance as darkness falls. Blue Jeans Farm is open 7 days a week, and the hayrides are available through Halloween. In nearby Hubbard, Ohio, we found a unique way to buy your lunch. It's a new restaurant called aptly the Lunch Basket. The basket, filled with croissants stuffed with chicken or tuna or a host of other fillings, are accompanied by salads and fresh bakery items made right on the premises. And you can eat your lunch in the tea room or carry it outside here at McKenzie Square, and on a nice fall day use one of their picnic tables. The best part is you get to keep the basket. McKenzie Square, where the Lunch Basket is located, is a unique complex offering a cookie bakery, shops that specialize in accessories, and there's even a year-round Christmas shop called the Enchanted Forest. And for a small fee, you can also take a ride on the kiddie train that once made its home at Youngstown's Idora Park. The train rides, weather permitting, will be running through Christmas. Trumbull County, just east of Cleveland, with lots of things to see and do, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
Yeah, but he didn't bring us any food tonight. Come on, Neil, get with the program. That's our news at 6.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. Movie star's hometown. Just a couple of the things our traveling man Neil Zurcher comes up with this week as he travels into Hoosier Land on a one-tank trip.
It's only a wide spot in the Indiana roadway, yet this tiny town of Fairmount, where time seems to stand still, where the population of 3,000 has changed little in generations, this small town has produced college presidents, authors, and a dozen other prominent Americans. People like Phil Jones of CBS News, a former White House reporter and foreign correspondent. And then there is Jim Davis, creator of cartoon character Garfield the Cat. But the town's most famous resident has been dead for 35 years, buried here in this lovely country cemetery at the edge of town. His grave still daily receives flowers from fans around the world. James Dean had a short but brilliant career in theater and motion pictures. He died in a car crash in 1955 at the age of 24. He only made 3 movies, Giant, Rebel Without Cause, and East of Eden, but attained in death a fame that other actors only dream of.
You know, now he's the eternal teenager. He'll never grow old. He's a symbol of American youth.
Lohr has the largest collection of James Dean memorabilia in the world on display. He says his gift shop in the front of the gallery has a steady stream of Dean fans visiting almost every day of the year. The Fairmount Community Museum also has a sizable James Dean display, including his high school motorcycle and many of his awards. Perhaps a quotation from a statue to his memory in California says it best about his short meteoric career. It ended with his body changed to light, a star that burns forever in the sky. Just down the road in Van Buren, Indiana, is a small restaurant that sells stuffed potatoes as its main course. Dozens of kinds of stuffed potatoes.
Now the Mexican has a taco meat, nacho cheese, bacon bits, green pepper, jalapenos, jalapenos, and sour cream over the top of it.
The bakers were looking for a gimmick, something that would set their tiny restaurant apart from others when they stumbled on the stuffed potatoes.
Now the Barnyard, that has a taco meat, nacho cheese, bacon bits, green pepper, jalapenos, jalapenos, and sour cream over the top of it.
In all, they have 24 types of stuffed potatoes and require reservations every night of the week. Prices for a full plate stuffed potato run about $5.
Now the low cholesterol Garden Delight there against California blend vegetables, no cholesterol margarine, mozzarella melt over top of it, jalapenos and green peppers over top of that one.
A potato that's a whole meal, just one of many things to do in Marion County, Indiana, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And he didn't bring us any of those baked potatoes back either.
Another week without anything.
Way to go, Neil. That's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you back here tonight at 11. Until then, boo! Have a good evening. It would rather leave the cooking of the annual dinner to someone else. Here's Neil on a one-tank trip.
A lovely spot for an autumn trip is Ashtabula County, where roads hide winter around far bends, guarded by tenacious leaves still clinging to limbs and boughs. Where covered bridges of tradition, still stand defying steel and concrete replacements. Where leaf-clogged brooks keep up a steady whisper of sound as the water spills down rocks and glens. Here at Point Park, high above the Ashtabula Harbor, from a bench you can command a view of the Ashtabula River as it twists and turns through the ore docks, under the bridges, quiet now that winter approaches, heading for the lake and the inevitable gales of November. If you like to browse, then come walk along historic Bridge Street in the Ashtabula Harbor District. Here you will find stores that reflect the Scandinavian ancestry of many who live here, and still others that service the ships and sailors who stop at this port, and still others for the many tourists who are just discovering this seaport town. When it comes to eating, you can step back in time at Holbert's Restaurant, with its gay 90s tower and its occasional Victorian-style shows.
How are you today? The outfit that I'm wearing is a Victorian walking suit of the 1890 period. This is what a Victorian lady would have worn while she was making her calls in the afternoon, or perhaps...
Holbert's is also famous for its homemade pies. They make better than 30 different varieties. And for Thanksgiving, they'll be open. With what else? Turkey and dressing is a specialty that day for families that don't want to cook Thanksgiving dinner. Reservations are suggested. They'll also have pumpkin soup on the menu.
But it tastes kind of like, maybe a little bit like, and it's, I'm not really sure, but it's good.
Incidentally, the cost for a Thanksgiving turkey dinner with all the trimmings at Holbert's, just $5.95 each. That might be cheaper than fixing it at home. Ashtabula, Ohio, a place for Thanksgiving and any time of year. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening. The dice were a nice touch. Today, as our traveling man Neil Zurcher sets out on this week's Thanksgiving one-tank trip.
Come along with me on some November roads. Let's head south to central Ohio, where carpets of brown lead to faded barns. These are the roads less traveled. And here near Delaware, Ohio on Route 42, there are bargains to be found. The huge Western Auto Store distribution center is here. And here also you'll find their outlet store, where bent and dented merchandise is sold, where last season's leftovers are for sale at discounted prices. In fact, the manager of this store, a former Clevelander, Chuck Woodring, does anything he has to move this merchandise.
Anything that's been damaged, if the price on it doesn't suit what people want to pay, we can work from there. We also have a bottom line. I've had to tell people I can't sell to you that cheap. But if it's within reason and we can make ends meet, sure.
In fact, Chuck says they'll dicker and bargain over the price of everything in the store, from washers and refrigerators to this classic reissue of the Western Flyer bicycle. The outlet store accepts credit cards and is open 7 days a week. They start baking at 4 o'clock in the morning at the Dutch Kitchen restaurant in nearby Plain City, Ohio. Fresh hot nut bread. And an army of pies comes from the kitchen each day, just like Grandma used to make. And if you're looking for a place to spend Thanksgiving this year without the bother of cooking, this may be just the spot. They plan a full menu with all the turkey, beef, and ham you can eat, with all the trimmings, of course. The problem is it's going to be crowded. They're not accepting any reservations. It's first come, first served. But Assistant Manager Daryl Schrock says if you're willing to eat late in the afternoon, you'll get served.
I would say close to closing time, 2 o'clock or so.
You'll still get your full meal and no problem.
Exactly. If you're in the door by 3 o'clock, you should have no problem being served.
You know, Thanksgiving's a nice day and there's a crowd inside. You might want to wait your turn out here on the porch in one of these hickory rocking chairs.
From its covered bridge to the old wagon wheels, you'll almost feel like you're spending Thanksgiving at Grandma's. Plain City, Ohio, a Thanksgiving destination, and it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, News Center 8. South in search of Santa and to visit one of the largest holiday light displays in the United States. Wheeling, West Virginia now calls itself the City of Lights, and if you like statistics, listen to these. The mountaintop here at Ogilvy Park contains more than 500 acres of lights. That's bigger than downtown Cleveland. Some of the displays are over 50 feet high, and the total number of lights used are 1,500,000. That's enough to light several small towns. And best of all, this gigantic carnival of winter lights is absolutely free. From its historic suspension bridge spanning the Ohio River with its 154 illuminated globes, to the dozens of animated displays here atop Ogilvy Park, Wheeling, West Virginia puts warmth into a winter night and brings it to life. As I wandered over hilltop and valley looking at the lights, I was also searching for Santa Claus. I promised my son Craig that I would drop off his Christmas list. But while there were all kinds of signs of the holidays, there was no Santa. I even checked with some experts to see if I was looking for the right man. Can you tell me what the real Santa looks like? Because I'm looking for him.
He has a red suit and a white beard. Well, we got some reindeers in front of him.
Okay.
And he sits on a sled.
And then there was this little boy who had all the answers.
Did you see Santa Claus tonight?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
Tell him where.
Yes.
Where'd you see him?
Yes.
Where did you see Santa Claus? Where'd you see him at?
Yes.
About 9 p.m., I got a good tip that Santa was in downtown Wheeling on the waterfront aboard the Valley Voyager, a stern-wheeler cruise boat.
Hey, I understand that Santa Claus was seen on board the Valley Voyager tonight. Is he aboard?
No, I'm sorry, Santa isn't here tonight, but he'll be back here in a few days. 4:30 to 6:30 dinner cruise and a 7:30 to 9:30 dinner cruise.
But he's not on board tonight.
No, not tonight.
Oh, nuts, I missed him again. Maybe I'll catch up with Santa at my next stop. But in the meantime, this visit to the City of Lights, Wheeling, West Virginia, has been a lot of fun. And best of all, it's just a holiday one-tank trip. Oh, and in the meantime, if you should see Santa Claus, would you please tell him that I'm looking for him? Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
Best of holiday decorations. Tonight, Neil is in Northwest Ohio on a special one-tank trip.
We often forget that our big city zoos are open all year long. But here in Toledo, Ohio, they've found a colorful way of getting out the crowds, especially during the holiday season. Using over 250,000 lights, zoo workers have transformed ancient trees into works of art. Soft blue lights accentuate the walkways throughout the 30 acres that make up the zoo grounds. And just in case you forget where you are, they also have some familiar animals created out of lights. The zoo lights will be on each night through January 6th. There'll be an admission charge. As you know, I've been carrying around my son Craig's Christmas list, trying to find Santa, and that's what brought me here to the Children's Wonderland at the Lucas County Recreation Center in Toledo. This is a Toledo tradition for more than 1/4 century. Aisles of animated holiday displays, over 50 of them, brightening the holiday night as they whirl, slide, jiggle, and bounce. At the end of the last aisle, just beyond the dancing reindeer, I found a long line. And there he was, the man I'd been searching for, Santa Claus. He was very patiently talking with each youngster and waving at those that decided they didn't want to stop to talk. I did feel a little odd, the only adult without a youngster in the line, but in seconds it was going to be worth it. I would have Craig's Christmas list finally delivered. Santa, I got this list. Could you take it with you?
I'm sorry, I gotta leave. I'm late. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Missed him again. Oh well, I did enjoy visiting and seeing Toledo. And there's always next week. But just in case anyone sees Santa, would you please tell him that I'm looking for him? From Toledo, Ohio, happy holidays. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
Oh, well, that was just one of Santa's helpers anyway, right, Rob?
They're better in the Cleveland area.
Yeah,
You should have told him that.
Yeah. That's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time. Tonight, Neil searches for him at a Christmas tree farm. Here's a holiday one-tank trip.
A beautifully decorated Christmas tree is the focal point of many of our Yuletide celebrations, and for many families, the method of getting the tree each year has become a family tradition. At the Pine Tree Barn near Shreve, Ohio, they encourage holiday memories with a team of bell-laden horses that pulls a hay wagon through the 100 acres of Christmas trees. Even the family dog comes along. As the wagon walks its way over hill and down lanes, people watch the trees go by, looking for that perfect one. As for the kids on board, each has some definite ideas on what the perfect tree is.
I like a long needle. Short. In between.
In between. This is a long needle tree, though.
I know. I don't know.
But they are very much in agreement when it comes to how tall the tree should be.
I like big ones. A big one. Real big.
Can you tell him real big?
Now, the owner, Bob Dush, who's spent most of his life working with trees, says the best tree is usually a Scotch or white pine. But he says when it comes to picking a Christmas tree for someone else, well, that's a different story.
When you have a tradition of a certain type of tree that you've used year after year, then that's the tree that's best for you.
Of course, when you find that perfect tree here at Pine Tree Barn, the next thing is to cut it down. Even without any snow on the ground, there's something about standing in a field full of fragrant pines that tells you it is that most wonderful time of year. And that reminds me. Has anybody seen Santa Claus here?
Yeah.
You did? Where?
At my aunt's.
Oh, did he say anything about, was that looking for me?
No.
Not a thing. Let's do it again, I guess. Well, I've got my tree. Now all I've got to do is find Santa Claus. In the meantime, the sight and sounds of the season certainly come alive here in Wooster, Ohio. And it's a great holiday one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, News Center 8.
And some of our best viewers I know personally for a fact live in Worcester.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes. So a big hey to everybody down there.
That's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope.
Saratoga ferry disaster and whose body is the only one yet to be recovered. Also at 11, a Cleveland woman is celebrating the greatest Christmas of her life after being released early from prison. We'll have an exclusive interview with her as she...
Merry Christmas, but before we leave you on this Christmas Eve, our traveling man Neil Zurcher is on a special assignment tonight. He and his son Craig took that little car of theirs and headed for the North Pole on an extra special one-tank trip.
What do you do if it's Christmas Eve and you're still carrying your son's Christmas list around? Well, I did the only thing I could think of. Craig and I drove to the North Pole on a one-tank trip to deliver it personally to Santa.
It looked like they've been busy.
Yeah, this is like the basement of the North Pole. Hey, here's Santa's carpentry shop. I bet he's in here. Let's see.
Yes, yes, come on in. Oh, you gotta get that door fixed.
Hi, Santa. We've been all over for you. How are you? Remember Craig?
Hiya, Craig. My gosh, you're growing to be quite a young man.
He forgot to get you his list in time, and I've been trying to catch up with you every place I've been on my travels, and unfortunately, I missed you every place we went. So we finally decided to drive up here to the North Pole and to give it to you personally. Don't mind, I hope.
Well, not at all. I'm sorry I missed you at the boat there in West Virginia.
I know, but you know, I was surprised we caught you here on Christmas Eve.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't if it wasn't for a broken rudder on the sleigh.
A broken rudder?
Yeah, and I don't know how I'm going to get it fixed.
Is there anything we can do to help?
Well, maybe you can do some magic with a tank of gas in that car, I understand.
Well, if you'd like to use our car, it's yours. I mean,
really?
Yeah, it's right out here in your garage.
Let's look at it.
Come on.
I don't know. I really don't. But it sure is beautiful. And I think we can make it work. John! John, bring me the toys!
Here you go.
Yeah, put them right up there in the back. Beth, I need a reindeer! Oh, that'll do fine. Right up there on the front of the hood. Okay, I know you guys got a lot of work to do, and I gotta go with the pixie dust and Mr. Zurcher and Craig. You wanna come with me? Come on. Okay, everybody get in the sleigh. I need the car!
Santa, you are going to drop us off at home, right?
Yes, I'll drop you off at home. You else give us a push into the launching elevator, okay?
That'll be good.
Hey, going right in here.
I think it's going to fit. Your sleigh fits in this, huh?
Oh, yes, it does.
Okay, a little left.
You notice how high it is so that we can...
A little bit farther.
Oh, looks good.
I think we're good. Okay, are we clear back there, Elves?
Okay, hit the button and launch us!
This is Elf Control. You've reached department speed.
Hold on to your hats. Here we go. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
'Tis the season of Christmas, and here at the station, the employees were smiling with thoughts of vacation. The third floor was decked out for
Spectacular lighting displays of the holidays. Tonight, he wraps up this special series of trips with a stop in Fremont, where Christmas of the Gilded Age is being celebrated.
If you'd like to experience the splendor of the holidays as they were celebrated a century ago, then come to the Presidential Center here in Fremont, Ohio. This is the lovely estate of our 19th President, Rutherford B. Hayes, and weather permitting, you can take a horse-drawn carriage ride around the grounds. If snow should be on the ground, you get to ride in a romantic horse-drawn sleigh. In either case, you'll travel over much of the 25 acres that make up Spiegel Grove. President Hayes' home on the site of the first presidential library in the country. When the ride ends, take a tour of the Hayes Mansion, all decorated for Christmas, from its Victorian Christmas tree to the magnificent 4-story high stairwell. Each week during the holidays, something is always going on here. And it's during December that you can actually sit here at the president's table and have dinner at his mansion.
There'll be 42 people seated at the table, 40 guests plus the host and hostess.
Who will be
dressed in 1880s and 90s costumes, and who will be talking about the kinds of things that they would have been talking about in those days.
The tickets, by the way, cost $125 each and were sold out 20 minutes after they went on sale. But there's always next year. Yet there is much to see and do here. An antique ornament display all month in the Presidential Museum, and on December 29th, a candlelight tour of the mansion, and all this week, the carriage and sleigh rides around the mansion grounds. A classic way to celebrate the holidays at one of Ohio's most treasured possessions. And best of all, it's just a holiday one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, News Center 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you back here tonight at 11. Have a as he has just the spot for a winter weekend one-tank trip.
A good cure for cabin fever this time of year is a weekend ride. Head southeast towards Belmont County on the Ohio River. The courthouse in St. Clairsville is the grandest building in town. Follow the old National Road out of the town, you'll find a vanishing breed, the glass carvers. Albert Sickles is the third generation of his family to follow the art form of freehand glass carving, an ability he says takes literally years to learn.
You know, where somebody held my hand for 5 or 6 years.
Today, with unerring accuracy, Albert applies grinding stone to glass to create ducks and hummingbirds and flowers, all freehand. Beauty frozen in glass. Does he ever make a mistake?
I got about 6 trash cans behind there.
The cost for this fading art form, a glass with your initials on it, will cost a couple of dollars. The more ornate, the more expensive it'll be. Folks from 3 states come to this cafeteria to eat lunch and dinner. In fact, the parking lot is always full, but the line always moves swiftly here at Millman's Cafeteria in St. Clairsville. The secret behind the large crowds is low prices and homemade foods and a large selection to choose from.
There's approximately about 25 entrees.
And there are the little touches, lots of help that offers to carry trays to the table for overloaded customers. And as I said, the price. I went through the dinner line and got all of this food, and here's what the bill came to.
$4.22, please.
But be aware that on weekends, the lines here sometimes do stretch out the front door. Before heading home, a quiet place to visit, even in winter, is Bar Camp State Park. If there's snow on the ground, they have some excellent snowmobile trails, and the fishing is good any time of year. Belmont County, Ohio, about 3 hours away, and a great wintertime one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, News Center 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening and go Cavs.
Today near Cleveland Hopkins Airport. Incredibly, the occupants walked away from this disaster, a scene captured by a Newscenter 8 crew who actually witnessed the crash. Newscenter 8's Belinda Prinz has details.
The two men on the right of your screen had just bailed out of their Cessna 206 single-engine plane. They pulled out the third occupant, still strapped upside down in the wreckage, just as two passersby came to their aid. John Bryan and Kevin Crosby of Elyria witnessed the crash. It happened north of I-480 in the airport clear zone, a quarter mile from the nearest runway.
We saw it flip, like the front tire caught in the mud and just like catapulted it, and then it flipped upside down into like a little embankment.
It broke off. The front tire was actually broke off at the ski.
TV8's Neil Zurcher and videographer Bill Wolf were driving along I-480 to another assignment when they too saw the plane come down. They radioed for help.
When we first saw the plane end up upside down, there was no movement. It looked like everybody was in the plane, trapped in the plane. The plane was upside down. Obviously, there was gasoline in it, and I was concerned.
Within minutes, Cleveland Fire, Airport Rescue, and EMS were on the scene. The pilot, 65-year-old Max Crumpy, said he and his two passengers, all businessmen from Hagerstown, Maryland, had suddenly lost power on the approach to Hopkins Airport. Crumpy said he was losing altitude fast. He banked his plane sharply to avoid a crash landing on the freeway. He took his chances instead in the rough terrain of the field. And except for minor cuts and scratches, all three were all right. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating what caused the power failure. Belinda Prince, Newscenter 8, Cleveland.
Vice President Dan Quayle visited today. Director Martin Scorsese. He talks about his illustrious career on such films as Raging Bull to the recent box office smash Goodfellas. This and an in-depth interview with former Israeli Knesset member Joshua Barazoni. This and more on Cleveland Tonight.
And if you're looking for a short trip this weekend, our traveling man Neil Zurcher says he has the perfect spot. A town with a discount store with crystal chandeliers and grand pianos, a restaurant where the salad bar has caviar, and a tour of a chocoholic's paradise. Here's Neil in a one-tank trip.
This is a store in Sharon, Pennsylvania that gives a whole new meaning to the word discount. Winners is a place that claims to offer up to 70% off the retail price for designer clothes. Yet the store looks like something you might find in New York City with its crystal chandeliers and piano player dressed in a tux, who incidentally is here every day. If you like high-quality clothes at a savings, this store might be for you. Bring along the youngsters and take a tour of Philadelphia Candies here in Sharon. It's been the favorite candy store of many Pennsylvanians for over 3 generations. The secret, the owner says, is in the way the candy is made.
We make everything from scratch here in our factories. We make all of our own cream centers from scratch, all of our own marshmallow.
While their prices are competitive, you can save even more by buying their double-dipped mistakes, candy that just didn't measure up to their standards. And when it's time to eat, one of my favorite restaurants is Tully's, part of the 3 by the River complex here in Sharon. This is one of the few salad bars I've ever seen that offers both red and black caviar, as well as a host of other unusual condiments. On weekends, they offer barbecued ribs that are as good as any I've tried. And another specialty I like, fresh-made potato chips instead of the usual French fries. These are served with a ranch dressing. Not far away is the Wendell August Forge that has become a tourist mecca with its free tours. You can watch the engraver's unique skills as they create on a piece of metal. Then the hammers go to work, giving the plate or saucer or pitcher its character. The forge is one of the last stops where carbon is added to the metal to make the highlights of the engraving stand out. Besides the free tour of the forge, you can also visit their outlet store where you can buy many of the things that they make. Sharon, Pennsylvania is just across the state line and makes an easy one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News with continuing coverage of Operation
Makes hot dogs the main entree. Just a couple of the stops this week as our traveling man Neil Zurcher sets out on another one-tank trip.
Warren, Ohio is a nice town to visit, especially if you like Victorian architecture. Their courthouse is one of the most imposing buildings in the state, and the park nearby offers bandstands to log cabins. There's also Millionaire's Row. That's the street where the wealthy once lived. A fixture downtown is Mickey's Army-Navy store, which has served 3 generations. Inside, you'll find surplus that ranges from a suit of armor, I'm not sure which war that was from, besides it's not for sale, to some army bags that have the date 1912 stamped inside. Of course, there's more modern surplus, like these West German uniforms, and then there were some surplus items I wasn't sure just what they were, so I asked the owner.
Most of them, I have no idea. I do have a clue on some because a lot of it's been reproduced offshore, and you do find out in purchasing them what the application was.
By the way, this World War II Jeep that is the center of the surplus display is also not for sale. Marty says they worked too hard to get it in here, and in fact had to practically build the store around it. They sell lots of hot dogs here in Warren. The hot dog shop has been around for nearly 40 years. It prepares and sells an estimated 28,000 hot dogs each week, most of them slathered with their special sauce.
The secret is for you, and people just seem to like it.
Just how far do some people come for one of these hot dog shop hot dogs? Keith Hutchison drove all the way from Columbus. He says just eating one isn't enough.
We always come back again and load up for a to-go order to Columbus.
Mansions, hot dogs, and combat boots. Just a couple of reasons to try Warren, Ohio. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news on this 14th day of the Gulf War.
CBS Evening News is next. We'll see you at 11.
2 of the spots visited this week by our traveling man Neil Zurcher as he sets off on a one-tank trip to Huron County.
If you love the sometimes strange and unusual things you find in small-town America, don't overlook New London, Ohio. Tucked away in a corner of Huron County, a lot of friendly people here. If they know you're going to visit them, they might even put up a sign of welcome. In a small, dusty building alongside the railroad track, you'll find the Ames Sword Company, the last manufacturer of swords in the United States. Here are the same patterns that were once used to make swords for President William Henry Harrison. General George Armstrong Custer, and others are stored in dusty boxes, waiting to be used again. In fact, they're still making this cavalry saber that they first made in 1862 and selling them to the same people they used to make them for.
The cavalry at Fort Hood, which we sell those swords to for their cavalry unit, which is the only horse cavalry left in the Army.
And as they have since their beginning, they still make ceremonial swords for all of the military services, swords that usually end up in museums.
The Smithsonian has Ames presentation swords that were made for Grant, Sherman, Meade.
If you'd like a free tour of the Ames Sword Company, just give them a call for an appointment. Barney Thomas grew up in New London, and he brought a bit of Broadway to the town with his box office restaurant. The decor is old movie posters and pictures of the greats of the screen, Broadway, and even the high school stage here in New London. Barney even has a special table for people that don't like to dine all alone. Good afternoon. She doesn't talk much, but she's a real cheap dinner date. Barney says the restaurant is becoming famous for its soup. He invents some of them, like bacon, lettuce, and tomato soup, Reuben soup, which, by the way, is delicious.
We have a lot of phone calls in the morning. What kind of soups you're making today? And they'll ask us, and then I'll tell them, well, we usually have 3, sometimes we have 4, and sometimes 5 soups. But we usually always have French onion, and usually a potato soup is always good.
While Barney's desserts are excellent, you might want to move down the street for nostalgia's sake to Bob's Newscenter, where, as they have for generations, still make the best chocolate ice cream soda in town. New London, Ohio, a collection of interesting places and nice people, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And if you're thinking about taking a one-tank trip, here's stick with the forecast.
Oh, you'll have a little slow going tonight. I'm sure you'll get there. Radar shows that.
And Neil Zurcher starts a special series of one-tank trips with some unique suggestions for that romantic weekend getaway. Tonight, Neil takes us to jail.
Bardstown, Kentucky is usually thought of as the place that inspired songwriter Stephen Foster to write My Old Kentucky Home. But there's another building here that has also possibly inspired people, inspired them to straighten out their lives. This is the old Nelson County Jail, where many a bored inmate also left some of his writing behind in the form of poetry on the walls of the shabby cells. There was also a darker side to this old jail. Out here in this courtyard, this is where they used to hold the hangings. That's right, hangings. There were at least 4 persons executed behind this jail in the last part of the 19th century. Today, the courtyard is used in the summertime for a pleasant place to have breakfast. The old Nelson County Jail, you see, has been reborn as a bed and breakfast known as the Jailer's Inn.
I think what brings people here the most is the uniqueness of it. That seems to be the word that everyone uses, the uniqueness of the old jail.
Beautiful might be a better word to describe what Fran McCoy has done to some of the cells in the oldest part of the jail, converting them into warm bedrooms, each with its own particular charm. And talk about privacy, the walls between the rooms are stone and 30 inches thick. This truly is a unique place to stay.
And just the idea of going home and tell people that they spent the night in jail is kind of a fun thing too.
You have a certificate or anything proof?
Yes, we do. We do indeed.
Fran usually greets her guests with a glass of wine. And for an additional fee, there is this packed picnic basket that can be shared at the jail or at one of the nearby parks. What does all this jailhouse luxury cost?
Somewhere between $50 and $70.
What's your policy about children?
Oh, we don't mind children at all. If they get too bad, we take them back and lock them up in the jail.
And that brings us to this more modern section of the old jail that has been refurbished for those that really do want to spend the night in a jail cell. It's even decorated in prison black and white. Fran says the kids and the adults all seem to like this room.
Somehow I don't think the original jail cells were quite this comfortable. The last person out shut the lights off and shut the door.
So if you're looking for a unique and romantic place to get away to, consider going to jail here in Bardstown, Kentucky. In our next report, we discover a resort that says, bring along your fantasy. They have a room to match it. And best of all, it's only a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
That inspired me. I think I'm going to give Brian a root canal for Valentine's Day.
More romantic than that, I think. No, that's a very nice place.
For Valentine's Day. Tonight, Neil heads for the Hoosier State in a place that lets you live out your fantasies.
From the outside, you would never guess that this motel contains some of the most unique suites this side of your dreams. The name says it all, Fantasuites. You know, like fantasies. Have you ever thought of spending the night in the Orient? You can do it here. The only thing missing is the smell of cherry blossoms. You say you're not interested in the Orient, that your fantasy is to turn back time?
They call this the Cadillac Suite, with good reason. It's a 1959 pink Cadillac, and if you've ever wanted to spend the night in one, well, you can, because this one's been re-equipped with a double bed.
The car is real. The seats have been removed to allow the installation of the bed. The walls are painted so it looks like you're back in the 50s, driving up and down the strip. What does a room to fit your fantasy cost here?
They're $175 a night. And it includes your champagne that's delivered to your room when you check in. The following morning at the time that you request, we will deliver a continental breakfast.
Some of the suites were occupied and we couldn't visit them. What do they look like?
And we didn't see the Northern Lights, which is our igloo.
You sleep in an igloo there?
It's a 10-sided waterbed like you'll see in the Arabian Night, and the whirlpool looks like it's sitting in an iceberg.
But we were able to take a peek at the Arabian Nights suite, where a tent fills one room, covering a 10-sided waterbed, with a floor covered with Arabian carpets and pillows. Nearby in the next room is an oasis that has a whirlpool bathtub big enough for 2. I know you're all wondering which suite was my fantasy. Since I was traveling alone, I chose the Old West. I could sleep in a real covered wagon. And when I got bored, I could go out to another room with a teepee. Inside there was a Nintendo game. They say the kids like this one. I know this big kid did. And before we leave, just one more peek. This one is called the Lunar Suite, complete with a lunar module to sleep in and a view of Earth from the moon. Fantasuites, a place that brings your fantasies to life here in Indiana, just south of Indianapolis. In our next report, we'll show you a one-stop resort where you can even play golf at midnight. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
This just into Newscenter 8. Baghdad Radio is reporting that Saddam Hussein may be willing to talk. He is quoted as saying,
Kathy and anyone with a golf nut in the family, listen up. In his week-long series of romantic getaways for Valentine's Day, Neil's found the perfect place for you to take Tim, a resort where golf is played day and night.
A quiet afternoon writing letters or just watching television in your room is the way some of us like to take a break from winter, while others want to get away to do some swimming. But whatever you like to do, we found a great winter getaway destination just a half-hour drive from downtown Cleveland.
We have a full-service health club and sports complex, 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor, the latest Nautilus and Universal exercise equipment.
And that's not all the Aquamarine Family Resort offers. They have some good package plans for 2 that cost just a bit over $200.
It includes a room for Friday and Saturday night, your dinner Friday and Saturday night, breakfast on Saturday and Sunday, and a welcome cocktail party.
If you like to bowl, you'll be pleased to know that they have newly refurbished lanes here at the Aquamarine. And if you like to just relax or lay around, they have plenty of places to do that. But what really sets this resort apart is its golf course, an 18-hole, 3-par course that, weather permitting, is open year-round and even in the dark.
It's a clear ball, and then there's an insert that you just shove it in.
Okay.
Now this will last for 8
Now,
hours.
there's one of these in this putter here,
Now
too.
there's one that's already in the putter here that's lit up.
Okay, what do you use for tee, then?
Tee, we have this that also lights up.
Okay, then how do you find the hole?
We have one of these that sits right in the cup.
Okay.
And we have this that hangs on the flagstick.
Joe told me that the illuminated balls only go about 80% as far as regular golf balls, but you never lose one of these at night. Playing golf in the dark and a whole lot more to see and do, and it's just a 1-tank trip. In our next report, we discover a luxurious log cabin for 2 hidden away in the country. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
a ball you never lose. That's for me. That's our news at 6.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. We'll see you at 11. Go Cavs. He continues his week-long series of travels in search of romantic getaways. Here's a special 1-tank trip.
Like diamonds flashing in the sun, the waters sparkle with a special brilliance on a winter's day here in rural Holmes County. If you've ever dreamed of escaping to the country, to a log cabin hidden away on a secluded hilltop, tucked at the edge of a woods, well, welcome to Paint Valley Place. This is more than just a bed and breakfast. This is Frank and Mary Hoover's home, furnished with a lifetime of collecting in the favorite possessions of past homes. They only accept one couple or family at a time, and you get much more than just a bedroom.
Our guests receive the first floor of our home, is what you see here.
Essentially your home.
Yes, and we have an apartment, private apartment below with our own private entrance there. So they're offered a private entrance, and this time of the year we have a fire in the fireplace.
The great room in the cabin is nearly 3 stories high with cathedral ceilings. Sleeping lofts are located at each end of the room. Near a porch, you'll find a dining room table with a crystal chandelier, where for an additional charge, the Hoovers will prepare a candlelight dinner.
We serve champagne chicken, prime rib, and some people like fish, well, we do that too.
And there is even more. Upon your arrival, the Hoovers greet you with a complimentary bottle of Ohio wine, served in real crystal goblets. What does all this rural luxury cost for a night's stay for a couple? About $100. The dinner, as we already noted, is extra. The Hoovers say their home has become very popular with honeymooners.
Right, they got married in Florida and flew up here for a couple days for their honeymoon. They got married in California. They flew here. I can't believe it, for a couple days, and they hate to leave once they get here.
Paint Valley Place, a romantic place to get away to, and best of all, it's just a 1-tank trip. In our next report, we visit a resort for the whole family that has everything from A to Z under 7 acres of roof. I hope you'll come along. I'm Neil Zurcher, News Center 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to say it all. Thanks
I
for
didn't
sharing
either.
your time with us. We'll see you at 11. Drive safe. Searching out romantic getaways for Valentine's Day. He wraps things up tonight with a look at a getaway destination where you can bring along the young'uns.
Sunrise just across Lake Erie in Canada. We've come here to visit a Canadian resort in the small town of Chatham that specializes in making sure the kids have a good time. While we're waiting, let's look around. This is Wheels Inn, and it has dozens of attractions, all under 7 acres of roof. There's a spa where you can have your hair styled, body massaged, or a complete makeover. There are racquetball courts, as well as the latest exercise equipment. Indoor swimming pools, one for exercise, the other just for fun. This is one of 2 spots in Canada that has 100-foot-long indoor twin water slides. There are indoor tennis courts.
Something new here at Wheels Inn is a brand new 24-lane bowling alley. All right!
And let's check the progress of our little bowler. I guess we can look around a bit more. This indoor playground is a favorite spot for the kids and keeps them busy for hours. But there are lots of other things for them to do.
The kids can enjoy everything from water mania in the pool to cooking with the chef to any of our activities in the Kent Kitty College. Bumper bowling, swim lessons, racquetball, tennis lessons.
Speaking of bumper bowling, how's our little bowler doing? I think she got more pins than I did. Rooms here at the Wheels Inn for 2 adults run from $90 to $120 a night. That's in Canadian funds. And the kids under 12 stay free. You get a discount for U.S. money, and there are other ways to save some money.
Some of the provincial and federal taxes can be rebated through the government. They would have to keep their original receipts, and they can send those away to the government and get their money back.
She's talking about the Canadian government, of course, and forms for the tax rebate can be obtained at the hotel front desk. So for a getaway for you and the kids that has something for just about everybody in the family, head north to Canada. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
But we all decided we liked that night in jail, didn't we?
It was the best. See you tonight at 11.
Have a good evening. Attractions, as well as a good time to take advantage of lower wintertime prices. Here's Neil and his one-tank trip.
If you wanted to explore Ohio's Amish area but didn't want to compete with tour buses, stand in those long lines at restaurants, this is the time of year to travel to Holmes County, the heart of the world's largest Amish population. You'll find much that is new, such as the Mennonite Information Center, just outside Berlin, where you can get your questions about the Mennonite and Amish way of life answered, as well as maps of the region. Maps that will show you the way to places like this, where the Berlin Flyer, a child's dream wagon, is built. They turn out about 30,000 wagons a year here at the plant in Berlin. They say they don't want to be the biggest maker of toy wagons.
We are a small family-owned company. We take pride and want to be sure to take the time to produce a quality product.
Incidentally, while you can buy the Berlin Flyer several places in Holmes County, they're also beginning to appear in stores in the Cleveland area. If you plan to spend the night, you can't beat the prices here at the Berlin Village Inn, a small family-owned motel that is clean, squeaky clean, comfortable, and the tab for 2 people for a night, less than $40. But be sure to make reservations at least 2 weeks in advance.
Hello, my name is Trudy. Welcome to another bow.
They've just completed a multi-million-dollar renovation here at the Alpine Alpo Cheese Factory and Restaurant Complex. It's now like a mini Swiss mall, with a shop that stocks upwards of 2,000 imported Swiss cuckoo clocks. There's a cheese and food complex that offers not only their locally made Swiss cheese, but other imported foods as well.
Different booths, different merchandise, but it all has to be quality.
And that's been the watchword here at Alpine Alpo for the past 55 years. their restaurant with its incredible three-dimensional mural of Switzerland, to the huge Swiss desserts that cap off every meal. And this is one of the few restaurants that is open on Sundays in the Amish area. So take advantage of this winter lull and explore what's new in Ohio's Amish country before all the tourists return. I'm Neil Zurcher, Wilmot, Ohio. Best of all, it's just a one-tank trip.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News with continuing coverage of the Gulf War is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope covered this week by our traveling man, Neil Zurcher, as he finds some unusual places to shop on a one-tank trip.
It was snowing lightly by the time I reached Wadsworth, Ohio, and this log cabin that is one of the most unique stores in the state. This is White Feather Farm. Fred Perkins and his family own this unique cabin that sells American buffalo or bison meat. That's right, those big shaggy animals that the Native Americans used to hunt with bow and arrow. Fred says bison meat not only tastes good, but it's good for you.
They're lower in cholesterol than chicken or turkey. And as far as I know, there's only one thing lower in calories in bison, and that's tuna and spring water. So you've got a low-calorie, low-cholesterol, high-protein product.
Folks come from miles around to try some of the bison burger, smoked sausage, roasts and steaks, and even bison hot dogs that Fred and his family produce. The Perkins bison herd, which numbers over 100, is believed to be one of the largest in Ohio. Those high fences are because bison are capable of jumping a 6-foot fence. Tours of White Feather Farm are free and they're open Monday through Saturday. There's another interesting store here in Medina County, the Log Cabin Sports Shop in Lodi, where most everything pertains to the world prior to 1860. Here you'll find all kinds of things that would have been everyday items to our great-grandparents.
We try to specialize in things that are just not any of them available in the normal stores and the normal chains and sporting goods and so forth.
Here you'll find deer hides, animal skins, cast iron cookware, wooden canteens, powder horns, muskets, and even tomahawks. There are also books about life in the 19th century and how-to books. They also sell wooden buckets and paintings. Even if you don't have a need for a horse blanket or, say, a tomahawk, they say browsers are welcome. Some interesting places to shop right next door in Medina County. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you right back here tonight at 11.
That would attract our traveling man Neil Zurcher as he sets out on a one-tank trip just outside of Erie, Pennsylvania.
If you like historic places, you'll love the tiny community of Northeast Pennsylvania, just east of Erie. The whole downtown has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Even in the surrounding countryside, you'll find interesting things like this octagon-shaped brick barn. This is also grape country. These are the vineyards that produce a lot of those good Pennsylvania wines. The old railroad depot here in Northeast is stuck away in a back street. It's now a museum, surrounded by locomotives and other rolling stock that once crisscrossed America. Inside the old depot, you'll still find the wooden benches from a century ago, preserved as are the signs and other railroad memorabilia. The purchase of this station for a museum was a real act of faith for local railroad buffs.
Well, we had to put our homes up, too. 15 of us was on the board. I was one of them, and we had to put our homes up, too, for extra collateral.
Today, by sponsoring train excursions and selling souvenirs, they've retired the mortgage and now own their museum, which is open by appointment only in the winter and Wednesday through Sunday in the summer. Brown's Village Inn seems to be the local favorite, not only for a nice place to spend the night, but when you're also looking for a good restaurant. They only have 3 bedrooms in this old stagecoach stop. Each has a private bath, and they offer a weekend package for 2 for less than $100.
As for the dining room, innkeeper Rebecca Brown, who is also the chef, prepares some really unique dishes, like this house specialty for an appetizer, fried spinach leaves.
Very popular item, something that we were just playing around in the kitchen one day, throwing things in the fryer and came up with it, and it is a big, big hit.
And she's right, they're very good. The inn is also known for its veal dishes. They're open Tuesday through Saturday during the winter, a trip back in time to Northeast Pennsylvania. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And that's our report for this Wednesday evening. For Eleanor, Casey, and Mark, Bargain Hunt. You'll want to come along as our traveling man Neil Zurcher sets off on a one-tank trip this week to Central Ohio.
In this small building at Columbus International Airport, you'll find a museum commemorating the commercial end of Ohio aviation history. From the story of the first air freight shipment of a package of silk from Dayton to Columbus, to this strange aircraft, believed to be the world's first inflatable airplane. And it really did fly, as these old Goodyear films attest.
America's first inflatable airplane.
There are dozens of interesting exhibits, as well as a well-stocked souvenir and bookstore. In fact, they have some rather unusual souvenirs for sale in the back room.
Airborne Express has been very generous to this organization. When they buy a civilian-type airplane and strip it out for cargo, they donate the seats to the museum.
If you're interested, you can have your very own airplane seat for $25 to $50. While in Columbus, give your family a touch of luxury with a stay at the Homewood Suites. For $65, they have a special package on weekends where the whole family can have a kitchen, wood-burning fireplace, living room, bedroom and bath. That comes with hors d'oeuvres in the afternoon and a continental breakfast the next morning. Now for the bargain hunters, try a visit to this Sears outlet where catalog returns and overruns are sold at drastic discounts.
Here's a 42-inch ceiling fan, antique brass with light, $19. That's a great buy.
The merchandise, clothing, appliances, and what have you change week by week. What you may find there today may not be there tomorrow. But if you love to hunt for bargains, they can be found here. And best of all, you can even return it if you're unhappy with it. Columbus, Ohio, a good buy anytime for history, bargains, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter
8. And that's our report.
And whereas Neil has become a valuable resource and an ambassador of travel to the state of Ohio, therefore be it resolved that I, George V. Voinovich, Governor of the state of Ohio, would like to commend Neil Zurcher for his past and present.
Today, an official from Ohio's Division of Travel and Tourism presented Neil with a special proclamation signed by Governor Voinovich. The proclamation recognizes Neil for 12 years of promoting Ohio through his series of one-tank trips around our state.
And a drive down the center of the state brings our traveling man Neil Zurcher to find a couple of small museums that also double as a butcher shop and a bed and breakfast. It's all part of this week's one-tank trip.
Along Route 23 in central Ohio, you can find an eclectic mixture of attractions from the home and grave of Ohio's last U.S. President, Warren G. Harding, to a combination museum and bed and breakfast that celebrates the Victorian era. This is called Victoriana, and it's a bed and breakfast located in Marion, Ohio. The first floor is given over to the owner's collection of rare music boxes and hand organs, all of which work. The second floor is an attractive bed and breakfast that offers a Victorian decor using authentic furnishings. A bit farther down Route 23 and you come to the tiny crossroads of Waldo, Ohio, known far and wide for the G&R Tavern, home of the world's best fried bologna sandwich. It's a sort of Central Ohio soul food. A thick cut of homemade bologna fried on a grill, then covered with a slice of onion and cheese and served on a Kaiser roll. Waldo is also the kind of place where you'll still find small roadside advertising signs. This rather unique meat market is called Mom Wilson's, where pork is a specialty. But the inside of the store looks more like a museum. There are collections of clocks, collections of watch fobs.
My dad really liked clocks. The watch fobs he got interested in while they were building the highway. Seemed like the construction men had watch fobs, so they would give him one and he'd trade one for another.
But don't try to buy any of the dozens of collections on display here.
They are not for sale. If you can't eat it, it's not for sale.
What is for sale is their pork products. Fresh sausage, bacon, pork chops, and just about anything else that you can produce from a pig.
One thing we just have not developed yet is how to bottle the squeal.
Central Ohio, where you can find some good things to eat, a little history, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
And if you would like to say hello to Neil in person, stop by the TV8 booth at the Great American and Canadian Sports Show now going on at the IX Center. Neil will be there daily through Sunday, handing out free copies of the 10th anniversary edition.
Traveling man Neil Zurcher as he sets out for Wayne County and a one-tank trip.
Tucked away in a corner of Wayne County is the tiny community of Kidron, gateway to Ohio's Amish country. And here is the home of Lehman Hardware, a most unusual establishment that is sort of like a museum where everything is for sale. You can find wooden buckets, sleigh bells, wood-fired cook stoves, and many other things that once filled hardware and general stores a century ago.
I've been told by a number of people already that we should charge admission.
Look around, you'll see things you just don't find at the corner hardware store, like cookie cutters.
We probably have at least 200 different kinds of cookie cutters, and probably a large percent of those cookie cutters never see a cookie.
There are other things like a hand-powered washing machine or a gasoline-powered washing machine. There are kerosene-powered refrigerators and freezers, and you can even buy an old washboard here. You're invited to browse as much as you like, or for $2 they'll mail you their catalog. That, with the exception of the prices, looks like it came right out of the last century. Lehman Hardware is closed on Sundays. While you're in Kidron, you might want to take a look at the new mini mall right behind the hardware. Here you'll find a shop that sells locally made Amish quilts, ranging in price from about $300 and up. There's also a store that specializes in Amish-made oak furniture, everything from a roll-top desk to a dining room set. And one more reason I like to come to this area, it gives me a chance to stop at one of my favorite restaurants, the Smithville Inn. The inn has been around since 1818, but since 1929, it's been locally famous for its chicken dinners. In the kitchen, fresh biscuits are made throughout the day. And chicken is the main feature on the menu, and it isn't frozen.
All chicken is fresh here. And all chicken, I'll put in a plug, is Gerber's chicken from Kidron.
So it's local?
And yes, locally grown chicken.
One of my favorites is this chicken cold plate heaped with fresh fruit. They use no preservatives here, and a generous portion of chicken and salad, all for less than $6. The food alone is worth the trip down here to Wayne County, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
You know, Neil's gotten out of the habit of bringing us back a sample of that food.
I'd take a sample of that Amish furniture.
Yeah, a big sample.
Heads east to Columbiana County and the antique capital of Northeast Ohio.
Columbiana is about as far east as you can go in Ohio. It sits right here on the Pennsylvania border. It's a town rich in history and in antiques. In fact, just about everywhere you turn, the shops and the stores of this community sell history. Even the stores themselves are antiques. In fact, the town now has 90 antique dealers. You can find just about everything you've ever wanted, from glassware to salt and pepper shakers.
Most of the antique stores are open 7 days a week from 10 to 5. Now, some of the specialty shops are not open on Sunday.
And when it comes to specialty shops, you won't find one more special than this one. Vivian's Specialties, stuffed dogs, realistic-looking life-size dogs made of cloth. So real, you want to pet them.
Hey, Goddard, this is my kind of pet. You don't have to walk him, don't have to feed him, you can just pet him.
The old movie theater in town is still open and runs special Saturday matinees for the kids and the spouses who don't want to look for antiques. Just about all the shops here will take credit cards, and a word of caution from some of the dealers about purchasing antiques if you get it home and then don't like it.
It's a little hard to get a refund or an exchange on an antique. Sometimes that can be worked out in advance.
So happy hunting. By the way, all that shopping will probably make you hungry. Good place to stop before leaving town is Heck's Restaurant. Their specialty is a chicken dinner made from scratch. They also operate a farm and serve many home-raised products. They also make their own bread and pies, and they always make a few extra, so you can buy one to take home with you. A nice family restaurant with good food and low prices. So for a late spring drive, try a one-tank trip in search of antiques. I'm Neil Zurcher.
The family, our traveling man Neil Zurcher says, why not go lighthouse hunting? This week, Neil visits some of the picturesque old lighthouses that dot the Lake Erie shore, all on a one.
It was these rocks that gave the land its name, Marblehead, and the reason the lighthouse was needed here at the mouth of Sandusky Bay. This same light has guided boaters for well over 150 years. In fact, it is now the oldest lighthouse in continuous use on the Great Lakes. The light is now automated, no one lives here, and you can only admire the lighthouse at Marblehead from the outside. No tours are allowed. Bring along a pair of field glasses to get a good look at the historic Lorraine Lighthouse at the mouth of the Black River in Lorraine. It's been unused for years and barely escaped demolition a few years ago. Now a group of Lorrainites are working to restore it as a possible museum. Presently, the only way to get to it is by boat. While in Lorraine, stop for lunch at perhaps one of the best-kept secrets in town, Campbell's Buffet. This is a meat and potatoes kind of place, but everything, and I do mean everything, is made right from scratch. And the cost is right. Dinner prices are $6.25 Tuesday through Thursday. A bit more on weekends when they add more seafood to the menu.
That includes your beverage, your drink, the desserts, the main courses, the salads, everything. It's just one price.
And the desserts here at Campbell's are all homemade, but one I particularly like is this one. It's called old-fashioned bread pudding. I mean, they make it fresh every day, and it is absolutely delicious.
By the way, they do get very busy on weekends, and reservations are a must. Back on the road again, and our next stop is east of Cleveland in Fairport Harbor and the Fairport Marine Museum and Lighthouse. This is one of the few lighthouses you can tour as well as learn just how big those lenses were that once magnified the light.
This one weighs about 3/4 of a ton, and this is a medium-sized one.
The lighthouses of Lake Erie, a pleasant springtime journey, and best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, News Center 8.
Well, we've bared all the news for you.
We hope to see you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening. And an antique store with a real working ice cream parlor. All part of this week's discoveries by our traveling man. Here's Neil Zurcher on a one-tank trip.
The expressions are frozen in time, carved there with a nearly forgotten skill and the carver's chisel. Chip by chip, the wondrous steeds of our youth are born and reborn here in Mansfield, Ohio at the Carousel Works Incorporated, perhaps the last manufacturers of wooden carousels.
We build whole carousels. We build the mechanism, and what we're doing now is looking for places to put them up and operate them in shopping malls or convention areas, wherever there's a big flow of traffic.
They offer tours of their 3-story plant for a slight charge. Families can just drop in. Groups should call for reservations. In another part of town, you'll find them daily making ice cream the real old-fashioned way in a wooden freezer with ice and rock salt. This is the Fitzwillie Ice Cream Parlor, located inside of all places, the Yesteryear Mart, a collection of 23 dealers of antiques and collectibles that offers everything from baseball cards to old Lionel trains for sale. You'll find old china, glassware, and best of all, the wonderful homemade ice cream fresh from the freezer. Today's special flavor was vanilla.
Well, we can make about anything you want, but we carry 16 all the time.
Here's another interesting store you'll want to visit in Mansfield, the Book Swap. Over 32,000 paperbacks are available, and this is how it works.
Book here that sells for $5.95, say, we would charge you $2.97. Now, if you bring a $5.95 book in, you may purchase a book for a 75% discount, and it would only cost you $1.48.
Sounds like a good way to get rid of your old books and keep up inexpensively with the latest bestsellers. And finally, Mansfield is home to the Ohio Genealogical Society Library, where for a small fee you can spend the day searching out your ancestry. I was looking for a great-grandfather named Henry Currier. It took the Society's Tom Neal about 15 minutes to track him down.
Henry Currier was age 43. He owned a sawmill.
He found that by going through the 1870 census records, but they have many other ways to help you find your roots. Mansfield, Ohio, lots to see and do in just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil.
Where do you find a really good ice cream cone? Well, each year about this time, Neil reviews some of his favorite ice cream parlors that he's visited on a one-tank trip. And here are his choices for spring.
Ben Young is the third generation of his family to call the cows here at the family dairy in Yellow Springs, Ohio. They're one of only 2 dairies in the state allowed to sell unpasteurized milk, and they use all of this rich cream in making their frozen desserts and won our vote for the richest and best tasting ice cream that we found last year. Travel back north with us to the town of Mansfield, where we recently visited. That's where we found Denny Crawford of Fitzwillie Ice Cream, making his product right in the front window in an old-fashioned wooden freezer. He can only make a small amount at a time. What he turns out is the kind of ice cream that brings back memories of front porches and strawberry socials. We had to jump in the car and travel east over to Holmes County and the town of Millersburg to find our biggest ice cream cone of the year. This is the Grocery Bag, a small convenience store that believes that what the world needs is a bigger ice cream cone.
The large is supposed to be as a pound of ice cream.
A pound of ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
How many dips do they usually break down to?
Well, sometimes you get out, great big dips, and then other times you get that, so it just depends. That's enough.
Betty doesn't use a scale to measure how much ice cream she puts in a cone, just her well-practiced eye. She admits that sometimes it's a little more than a pound, sometimes a little bit less, but no one has complained. Small ice cream cone, guys. And if the rest of you want one, you got to come here to get it, because I can't bring this home. It melts too fast. So discover it for yourself. Ice cream cones by the pound, all in a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8, Millersburg, Ohio.
Could we get to Millersburg?
Run. Just a couple of the stops this week as our traveling man Neil Zurcher sets out on another one-tank trip.
If you have no garden of your own this spring, you can still enjoy the beauty of the reawakening of the earth here in Strongsville. This is the Garden View Horticultural Center. The dream and obsession of one man, Henry Ross, who 42 years ago turned 16 acres of swampland into a place of flowers, green lawns, trees, and statuary. Today he worries what will happen to his dream after he is gone.
The only 2 things that can ensure its perpetuation is a large enough endowment fund to pay the salary of the staff that will be needed to take care of it, and at least one person or preferably a staff of people who are in it because they love to do it and want to perpetuate it. And if those two things do not materialize, it's going to die with me.
Garden View is open to the public for a small admission fee on the weekends. If you'd like to mix some bargain hunting for spring with your trip, travel farther down Route 42 to Medina and the Sears Catalog Outlet Store here on Court Street. This is where the returned and unsold catalog goods end up at savings of up to 70% off the original price.
On Thursday, we have our best advertised specials on Thursdays. Their sales run Thursday through Sunday.
Those are the days you can save even more on your purchases. A small part of our transportation history is still running out in Olmsted Township. This is Trolleyville, USA.
The car that we're riding on was built in 1906 by the Niles Car Company in Niles, Ohio. It ran on the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin Railroad from 1906 to 1957.
Starting Memorial Day, Trolleyville will be open Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays for rides in some of the more than 24 antique rail cars in their museum. The ride covers over a mile through streets of a nearby mobile home park and stops briefly at the old Berea Railway Station that now is a museum of miniature rail models. All the kids in the family, even the big ones, will enjoy this one. And best of all, it's just a one-tank trip. I'm Neil Zurcher, Newscenter 8.
Neil standing on that trolley.
He obviously gave up his seat to that
gentleman.
Yeah,
Sure.
That's our news at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope to see you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening.